I stole something today from the EQC chair of many years, Horace Brown, and he said something like, the environment is where all life lives. It should be at the top of the list of our priorities. I thought that was a great thing. So I stole it from him, and I'll give him credit today. I would like to introduce to you Dr. Kimberly Sinclair Holmes. She is our new chair. Now let me tell you a little bit about her. She scratched out a lot. So I'm just going to read a little bit. First of all, Dr. Holmes holds a PhD in public affairs from the University of Texas at Dallas. She also holds a BS degree from Tuskegee University in Alabama, and MS degree from the Georgia Institute of Technology, both in electrical engineering. Dr. Holmes is Assistant Professor of Public Administration at Kentucky State University. She also serves as Associate Vice President for Inclusion and Innovation. Her responsibilities include policy making, strategic planning, public management, program design and implementation, process improvement, resource allocation, and representation of the university on local and state levels. Her research interests are in implementation of federal legislation, especially related in voting rights and agriculture. I don't know how you have time to do all that, Dr. Holmes, but let's give an applause. This is our new chair, Dr. Holmes.
We certainly appreciate the time you've taken out of your extremely busy schedules to join us this afternoon. I would like to take a moment and introduce the members of the Environmental Quality Commission who are present this afternoon. So starting with Mr. Tom Herman, who's from Louisville, Kentucky. We also have a newly appointed member of the Environmental Quality Commission, Mr. Steve Coleman. We thank you for your efforts as well. And then our members who are not present today due to scheduling conflicts, Mr. Mark Grisham, Vice Chair from Paducah, Kentucky, Ms. Martha Tarrant from Lexington, Kentucky, Mr. Scott Smith from Lexington, Kentucky, and Jason Delambre from Frankfort, Kentucky. At this time, I'll move very quickly forward with our program. It is my great pleasure to introduce the Secretary of Kentucky's Energy and Environment Cabinet. Appointed by Governor Steve Beshear in 2008 to oversee Kentucky's energy, environmental protection, and natural resource programs, Dr. Lynn Peters is an internationally renowned chemical engineer with demonstrated leadership in research, academia, and management. Among his many accomplishments in his role as Secretary, Dr. Peters has developed and implemented Kentucky's first comprehensive strategic energy plan to address the state's growing demands for energy in an environmentally sustainable and economically effective manner. Prior to returning to Kentucky, he served for 5 years at the Battelle Memorial Institute, a leading nonprofit applied science and technology development company based in Columbus, Ohio. Dr. Peters was also Senior Vice President and Director of the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, where he oversaw a staff of 4,200 persons. Under his leadership, he realigned the laboratory's research priorities to meet the needs of its diverse customer base. Dr. Peters has been recognized for his achievements with honors ranging from National Science Foundation Award to the Oak Ridge Associated University's Outstanding Leadership Award. Dr. Peters has held several senior academic and administrative positions at leading universities, including Virginia Tech and the University of Kentucky. He holds a doctorate in chemical engineering from the University of Pittsburgh and is a prolific author and lecturer. I also happen to know that he is a dedicated husband, proud father of 3, and proud grandfather of 6 children. Please join me in welcoming to the podium one of Kentucky's greatest natural treasures, Dr. Lynn Peters.
Well, you were doing some research on my personal life, I can see. But it is great to be here. And Arnita, I want to thank you for organizing this and for everything you do in your work with the Environmental Quality Commission. And Steve and Tom, thank you very much for your service, and I want to thank the others for their service, even though they aren't here. As I was telling Steve is the newest member, as Kim mentioned. As I told him, you know, the hours are good and the pay is good. Okay. but it is a pleasure to have all of you working. And Kim, thank you very much for being chair of the EQC. It is a great honor and a privilege for us having you do that. I got to know Kim shortly after I came back to Kentucky and assumed this position when I started with the governor's office. And Kim and I immediately developed a very cordial and relationship. She keeps me abreast and gives me a little bit of an academic fix once in a while when I need that academic fix. Spending 30 years in universities, you can never quite get enough of it. But in any event, Kim, thank you for everything you do. It really is a pleasure. It is a pleasure, really, to introduce this year's keynote speaker, Sarah Lynn Cunningham. She has been an environmentalist for nearly 40 years and is well known for both her expertise and for her passion in what she does. She's a licensed professional environmental engineer and a state-certified environmental educator. It reminds me, when I was working on my PhD, just to digress for a second, Sarah, I was at the University of Pittsburgh, but I was very fortunate. This is, just to tell you how old I was, this is before EPA. I had what was then called a National Air Pollution Control Administration. Some of us are old enough to remember that as one of the predecessor organizations to the EPA that was pulled together. But I had a National Air Pollution Control Administration traineeship offered through the Graduate School of Public Health at Pitt, and I was very, very fortunate to have one. So go back a long way in that whole area of environment. But it's always good to see somebody else who has expertise and really passion in that area. Ms. Cunningham is an expert on green design, sanitation, and the impacts of poorly planned development on infrastructure provision. She holds 2 interdisciplinary degrees from the University of Louisville, a Bachelor of Applied Science and Environmental Engineering, and a Master of Science in Environmental Education and Environmental History. She has worked in civil service with the Louisville and Jefferson County Metropolitan Sewer District, Jefferson County Board of Health, and the Kentucky Division of Water. She now runs a consulting firm called Green Smarts. At the Metropolitan Sewer District, she facilitated and coordinated the implementation of MSD's commitment to CERES principles. CERES stands for Coalition for Environmentally Responsible Economies. These included environmental management systems, environmental auditing, energy efficiency, pollution prevention, and public participation with citizen environmental groups. Ms. Cunningham is known for promoting energy efficiency and pollution prevention, for translating regulations for field personnel. She's demonstrated real-world applications of lessons to educators and for teaching science and critical thinking to students. After being invited to join the International Climate Reality Project in 2007, she co-founded Louisville Climate Action Network, and some of you have probably seen the results of that network, some of their studies. She has shared her technical expertise in water quality and public health with governments around the world, including those in Kiev, Ukraine, great city to visit, Tamal, Ghana, Kanagawa Prefecture in Japan, Phuket Island, and in Louisville's sister cities. We look forward to hearing your remarks, Sarah, and thank you for joining us today.